Hello, my name is Katy Hendricks, and I will be sharing with you today my findings and recommendations surrounding the personnel and ADA policy sections of the Town of Clarkdale's Employee Handbook. In this presentation, along with my findings and recommendations, I will be sharing my research questions, methods, and more specific areas of focus that guided my recommendations. The research questions that I sought to answer throughout this project were: one, which sections of the Clarkdale Employee Handbook are outdated and out of compliance with state and federal law? Two, how can these outdated sections be updated according to the empirical best practices in a way that ensures the handbook meets compliance guidelines while also meeting the needs of city employees? Three, what other cities in Arizona have performed similar handbook updates, and how can the town of Clarkdale use this information to best update their own handbook? And four, what best practices in HR policy have been identified with empirical literature that can be implemented in the town of Clarkdale? So in order to answer these questions, I took a qualitative approach to my research. My primary focus was studying the handbooks of other municipalities in the state of Arizona in order to compare the handbooks to both each other and to Clarkdale's handbook. I chose this approach in order to get a good understanding of what the status quo handbook looked like across the state, and also locate handbooks with exceptional organization and verbiage, as well as more cutting edge policies that could be of benefit to Clarkdale as the town looks to make the edits to their employee handbooks. So after consulting with town officials and conducting my independent research, I ultimately referenced the handbooks of 5 Arizona municipalities within my research, which are Surprise, Oro Valley, Chandler, Scottsdale, and Gilbert. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, I am focusing on policy surrounding personnel leave and ADA policy. Within personnel policy, I am focusing on Clarkdale Handbook sections 4 through 6, which focus on paid sick time, the Family Medical Leave Act, absence without leave, jury duty, military duty, and maternity leave. And within ADA policy, I am focusing on Clarkdale Handbook Section 18, which addresses ADA employment policy specifically. So now I'm going to address my findings and my recommendations. To begin, I will focus on personnel leave policies. When looking at Section 4, which addresses paid sick time, I selected Oro Valley as my reference municipality. I selected Oro Valley based on the clarity, organization, and context offered within their sick leave policies. An example of these traits is seen in their detailed breakdowns on what sick leave can be used for, how the employee, manager, and city give and process sick leave requests, verification processes for taking sick leave, and the return from work process after taking sick leave. Oro Valley's procedures are presented in numerical lists that give both managers and employees expectation for how sick leave is to be used and processed, with little room for confusion. I believe that these qualities can provide essential context that is currently lacking within Clarkdale's sick leave policies. Moving on to Section 5, which covers the Family Medical Leave Act, I selected Scottsdale as my reference municipality. While the town of Clarkdale is in compliance with FMLA law, there is a lack of clarity and cohesion, which could lead to compliance issues. Scottsdale's FMLA procedures are concise and easy to access, with the city providing links from their digital handbook directly to their medical leave of absence request form, which is needed for both the city and the employee for FMLA application. Additionally, Scottsdale includes their short-term disability policy and procedures in tandem with their FMLA policies, which for the city of Scottsdale includes 13 weeks of paid medical leave. This is a venture not mentioned within the Clarkdale Handbook and could be a policy that is explored and or even added as an additional benefit in the handbook, even if not to the extent of Scottsdale's. Overall, the City of Scottsdale's FMLA and short-term disability procedures provide employees with a clear and concise direction on how to request both forms of leave and what to expect during the process. The inclusion of the necessary request forms within the document helps ensure an increased level of employee compliance and streamlines the process for both managers and HR. Additionally, the inclusion of short-term disability benefits grants a supplementary option to FMLA that may benefit employees by offering pay even when they are unable to work. So, rounding out the personnel policy portion of this presentation is Section 6, which covers policy surrounding absence without leave, jury duty, military duty, and maternity leave. For this section, I selected Surprise and Gilbert as my reference municipalities. Within the Clarkdale Handbook, these policies offer a degree of ambiguity that could become a problem to employees and managers that are seeking out further guidance on these forms of leave. The City of Surprise provides detailed and clear policies for military leave, civic duty, and unpaid leaves of absence. Each section contains a policy section and a procedure section, which details relevant laws, policies, and request documents that may be needed in order to apply for these leaves. The separation of policies and procedures into individual sections for each leave creates a clear idea of each policy, as well as how employees need to go forward in pursuing them. They also contain important sections such as non-discrimination clauses and verification procedures. It is important to note that Surprise Handbook addresses voting and crime victim leave, along with jury and witness duty under the umbrella of civic duty policy. Secondly, Surprise's unpaid leave of absence policy covers absences to do with running for elected office, pursuing job-related education and training, and ADA, FMLA, and workers' compensation-related leave, alongside absence without leave policies. These additional policies could be helpful in addressing additional leave that may be requested by Clarkdale employees that are currently not addressed. So another important difference to note between Clarkdale's handbooks and other Arizona municipalities is the scope and discussion on maternity leave policy. In Surprise, pregnancy is a qualifying event related to illnesses covered by the city's paid medical leave policy, which provides 75% of the employee's biweekly earnings for as long as determined by the city's third-party administrator. A more cutting-edge example that can be seen within the town of Gilbert's personnel policies is a paid parental leave policy that provides 4 consecutive weeks of paid leave for benefit eligible employees following the birth and or placement of a child via foster care or adoption with an employee. This policy runs concurrent with the town's FMLA policies. Although paid leave is not mandatory, providing policies like parental leave has shown a significant raise in recruitment and retention in the private sector. So in conclusion, the City of Surprise offers a comprehensive and detailed set of policies and procedures regarding military leave, civic duty, and unpaid leaves of absence. The city's detailed and distinct policy and procedure section for each form of leave offers a clear set of policies for employees and managers to follow when looking to pursue these forms of leave. Additionally, both the City of Surprise and the town of Gilbert offer ideas on maternity/paternity leave that extend outside of the FMLA and could be potentially beneficial for the town of Clarkdale to consider if fiscally feasible. Moving into ADA policy, I will be focusing on Clarkdale Handbook Section 18, which is their ADA employment policy. Clarkdale offers a step-by-step process on how to submit ADA-related grievances and how the process looks after submission. If still compliant, this section gives important information to employees covered by the ADA, and it should be included and updated for accuracy if needed in the new draft of the handbook. However, there is a need for more information pertinent to an employee looking to approach and request ADA accommodations and coverage. For this policy, I use Surprise and Chandler as my reference municipalities. The City of Surprise offers a more succinct way for employees to access and understand ADA policy. Within the city's employee policy manual, they include information pertaining to ADA policy within their anti-discrimination policies. They separate the policy and procedures regarding the ADA into 2 categories with information relating to both. The ADA Accommodation Policy sections lay out the city's compliance with the ADA, which employees qualify, and how the city makes accommodations regarding any requests. The procedural section lays out more specifically how to make accommodation requests, including attachments to the employee request for accommodation form and applicant confirmation of accommodation request form. It then goes on to explain procedures after the request and how managers and employees should handle accepted accommodation requests and directions on where to read more on grievances if needed. Additionally, the City of Chandler's employee personnel rules offer an in-depth policy document for the filing and addressing of grievance documents that may be helpful in the process of Clarkdale's editing and restructuring of their own processes. Chandler procedures explain that the purpose and definition of a grievance, as well as the time limit and steps in order to file the grievance. It also explains the city manager's role, how to assemble a review committee, and the city time for processing the grievances. The City of Surprise presents their ADA policies and procedures in a clear and concise manner, providing the needed steps and documents to apply for ADA accommodations within the workplace. While Clarkdale has a step-by-step process on how to submit grievances, their accommodation request procedures are much less clear. Additionally, the City of Chandler provides a document laying out all details and roles that play into a grievance request, which could serve as useful to Clarkdale as they make any edits to their own processes. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.